And we see the 13-year-old over here on the right. We're going to make sure we have the right pairing here. So we hold on a second.
Yeah, that is not the face of Tony Preeshl. We'll figure out exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. That's not Tony Preeshl. We don't have the right names here. I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but tell Nick or something. But that is Rio Trevathan.
All right, so just a face camera issue. This is Tony Preeshl now.
Okay, yeah, this is Preeshl actually playing. Okay, so when he had those two faces next to each other, the one on the left wasn't Tony, but this is Tony we're seeing playing at the table.
Some shenanigans with the power outage, I assume.
All right, so Preeshl on the play.
And that's where you want to be.
Yeah, that especially against
important.
burn.
Yeah, your green creatures against burn, you want to come out in front.
So I think the pairings is right, but the face cam is wrong, Robert. So.
And cracking the fetch, you got to figure there's a 1-mana creature here, and it is Noble Hierarch. It's going to set the pace for this game.
Yeah. And, you know, being on the play matters so much. On the draw, you have to worry about things like Goblin Guide into Searing Blaze on your Noble Hierarch. Preeshl could get out in front here. But Goblin Guide is going to be the play for Rio.
Reveals Duskwatch Recruiter. Threatening to trade with the Goblin Guide.
Threatening to check off this square, Goblin Guide revealing a land. Turn 2, Duskwatch Recruiter for Preeshl. And he'll use Noble Hierarch to make another Noble Hierarch and passes.
It looks like another backup Recruiter in hand, so pretty free to trade with this first one.
Yeah, I really like how much acceleration and way that Tony's getting onto the board. The rest of his hand is Tireless Tracker, Duskwatch Recruiter, Collected Company.
If he can maintain both these hierarchs, he won't even need a land to start casting Collected Company.
Yeah, now you mentioned the real knockout punch from a Counters Company deck frequently here is accompanying into Kitchen Finks. Now, Preeshl can't do that.
No. Largely, his edge is going to come from finding areas to leverage Spell Queller. Amusingly, one of the better spots against Burn is not to actually exile a spell, but just to flash it in as a 2/3 blocker. That's still pretty good in this matchup, though. If he can find a window for Scavenging Ooze, that can put a lot of hurt on Burn as well.
Yeah, especially when you have these creatures in play, because Rio can't really push the Goblin Guide through without making trades. And when those trades happen, Scavenging Ooze just comes on out on top. It gains life, gets big.
Right.
Second Goblin Guide for Rio. Both will attack. There's the land. Checking that one off.
Windswept Heath and Breeding Pool. Little draw 2 for Preeshl. Pretty good free value.
And Duskwatch Recruiter. He'll go ahead and trade that with one of the Goblin Guides, take 2 and drop to 15. And Rio, the triple 1-drop start. A post-combat Monastery Swift Spear.
Now that one did not have a good attack on that turn. Theoretically, you could have played it as a shock. If the Duskwatch Recruiter blocked the Swift Spear, then the guides are connecting. Yeah. So that's not very inviting.
It's still too early to be making those kind of attacks.
And especially because he has spells rolled up. He can make a big Swift Spear attack on the next turn.
Yeah, we see a Lava Spike at the front of his hand. Now for Tony, a tapped Breeding Pool and a pass would look like he has nothing, but we've watched enough Counters Company decks to know that that's not the case.
This is most certainly Collected Company. Question is whether or not Collected Company is nothing or it's the best card in the deck. That remains to be seen.
And because of that, Rio might attack into the Collected Company anyway if he needs it to miss.
In particular, if he has a hand that says, listen, these burn spells aren't going to get there. You need to start connecting with your creatures. Also, one of the ways that Preeshl wins this game is assembling his infinite combo. If you can attack and Preeshl finds, say, Vizier of Remedies, you either force a trade or you just connect with your creature.
So, starts with looks like another Monastery Swift Spear. Does have a Lava Spike in hand. Looks like a third Goblin Guide as well. He'll spike upstairs. Tony goes to 12.
At some point, Tony might consider trying to hit a Spell Queller in response.
Looks like he actually is going to do that. Now, those prowesses will still trigger. Top 6, and it looks like a miss for Tony. Now he's taking a ton of damage.
He found 2 creatures, but one of them was Walking Ballista. That does not play.
Ballista and Birds of Paradise.
He might put it in just in case he can Eternal Witness it back later.
He does have a Witness actually in his hand.
All right.
But he's, I mean, with just the birds, we're looking at 3 damage from the spike and 6 from the creatures. That put him down to 6. I don't like that at all from Tony's spot.
Now, you can throw the birds in front of a creature to save 2 life. It's not great.
Yeah, and he chooses to not put the Walking Ballista in the graveyard. Just getting Birds of Paradise. So here's a full swing from Rio. Very happy to see that end up. Tony will get some lands.
So if there's no block with the bird here, then it suggests that Tony is planning to Eternal Witness back the Collected Company.
Okay.
Therefore, there's really no reason to have the Ballista in the graveyard until you produce another Eternal Witness. And 3 copies in the deck, it's certainly possible you could company into one, but even just witnessing into more companies is usually a pretty strong line.
Yeah, and then there's no real reason to keep the Ballista in the deck. I mean, that's part of the combo, but when you make the combo, you draw your deck and you make enough mana to just witness it out of your graveyard. So Tony down to 6. His hand still has a lot to work with. He has Court of Calling, Duskwatch Recruiter, Eternal Witness. But you have to figure, if he lets Rio untap his lands, there's a good chance the game ends.
Right. He has access to a few ways he could theoretically set up the combo next turn, but you can't do it this turn. You can't give Devoted Druid haste. He's really under a lot of duress right now.
He's going to fetch down to 5. Now, Rio didn't play a 3rd land last turn, so there's a chance if Tony stays at 5, not 4, that Rio, if he misses a land, doesn't have enough burn. Or maybe he has it, but he can't cast it fast enough.
Sure.
No, Rio's end could be all Boros Charms. Enough burn, but what do you do?
Right.
With 7 mana here, Tony can both cast Eternal Witness for Collected Company and cast Collected Company. And it looks like that may be the play. He'll get back the company. And says go. Now, Ryan, if this Collected Company doesn't hit a Devoted Druid, then Tony still can't win.
Sure can't. Yeah, because you tap all your creatures down, you would have access to only enough to Court of Calling for 0 with your creatures you found. I guess you could,
right.
Yeah.
So does Tony want to instead Chord for the Druid and on this turn and then hope to company into the Vizier?
Yeah, you could make some blocks where you throw your birds, your Noble Hierarchs, your Eternal Witness in front of these creatures, cast Chord before damage is applied, find the Druid and kind of hope that it's good enough.
Searing Blaze from Rio targets the Eternal Witness.
And he found the 3rd land as well, so that's going to be for 3 damage upstairs.
Yeah.
If this does not trigger a Collected Company to try to find Spell Queller, I'm not really sure how Tony even wins from here.
Well, no, hold on. He can't Court of Calling, so he'd tap him out of blockers. Tony could let the Witness die, block all 3 of the creatures, and then he company. Yeah, and that's, I mean, he's going to lose everything, but he has a chance. Interestingly, if Rio had pointed the Searing Blaze at one of the mana creatures, it would have taken this play away from Tony.
True.
And I think for that reason, Rio's opened a window for Tony to win here that may not needed to have been opened. And Tony's just going to go for the company right now. Needs to find Spell Queller. Here's 6. Noble Hierarch Spell Queller. Okay, he does it.
Yeah, there's theoretically worse Collected Companies.
Spell Queller eats the Searing Blaze. But still 3 blockers now for Tony. He is still at 5, however. 1 Prowess trigger. The Swift Spears are 2 3s. A Goblin Guide from Rio and a full swing. This is not lethal.
And in some ways, Rio did kind of force that action just because with 1 land up, the odds that he just has another Lava Spike, a Lightning Bolt, Tony has to respect that.
Yeah, you can't do it. So it might be no matter where Rio points at the same play happens.
Right.
All right, 4 creatures here. There's 1 Prowess trigger on the Swift Spears, so all 4 of them are 2 power. So Tony has to block 2. And it looks like he's going to... He was thinking about blocking 3 and then says, well, I don't have to. But he will. Goblin Guide the guides will trade away. And the Noble Hierarch will die. So Rio's left with a pair of Swift Spears. Tony's at 3. And actually he untaps with 7 mana. Not a bad spot for Preeshl.
Won't be able to combo off this turn. He really needs to find Scavenging Ooze right now. So if he chords for it, he could have 2 green mana left over and go fully up to 5 and have a 4/4.
Yeah, with that chord, I don't mind it finding Scavenging Ooze. It could also find another Spell Queller, which isn't that terrible either.
Yeah, Spell Queller is fine.
But I think you're right.
I
Getting
think
Ooze
actual life gain is just too important.
Yeah. He's got plenty of creatures, plenty of blockers. I think something along the lines of just use your mana to chord for a Scavenging Ooze and leave up all your blockers.
So you need to get 3 green. I don't really want to crack this fetch land, so I probably just use my mana creatures and 2 of my lands to find Scavenging Ooze, leave up 2 activations, and then the Spell Queller and the Ooze are untapped. That checks the 2 attackers that are already on the battlefield.
Tony likes to be more dangerous. He's going to go down to 2 with that fetch land.
I suppose it's going to be a wash with the fetch land because you just gain that life back. There's enough creatures in the graveyard right now.
Yeah, he does have that one more forest to get here. Is there a reason you'd want to chord main phase here as opposed to...
I'm not into letting Rio untap.
Yeah. He'll make Duskwatch Recruiter. And he's going to let Rio untap. I don't... Ooh. He'll attack for 2. That's fine. You're right.
If we're not going for Scavenging Ooze right now, then I definitely don't like cracking the fetch land.
Yeah, well... The read here is that he's leaving up white-blue as though he has Spell Queller in his hand, right?
Sure.
I mean, if I'm on Rio's side and I'm trying to explain why did my opponent go to 2 to get a basic forest, that's the only thing I can come up with, is he's got a Spell Queller in his hand.
Barring getting to the point where he actually gains life, I suppose any spell that does 2 is going to deal 3. It's only creatures that can connect for exactly 2.
So here's Burrow's Charm from Rio. Going to try to win. Tony's going to chord. Chords for 3, but that's going to be Spell Queller. But he's dead on board.
He has 2 blockers.
He has the Duskwatch Recruiter. You're right. So both these Swift Spears become 2/3s.
Just 1 card for Rio. It needs to be a 1-mana burn spell or a Goblin Guide for this to be lethal.
Yeah, he still gets a pretty
free attack.
Yeah,
I guess to eat this Duskwatch Recruiter.
2 attackers. Tony has to block them both, so Duskwatch Recruiter is going to go away. Fair enough. Goes into the bin.
Suspend Riftbolt.
All right.
What do you got on this one?
Yeah. You are on notice. It's so close, right? At a 1-mana sorcery, the extra prowess would have been great there. It would have won. But Riftbolt almost triggers prowess. Doesn't actually.
It's a card that you can't not play, but it's usually the most awkward card in the burn deck.
And now with that chord spent as it was, Tony's running out of options. He has Tracker, Vizier of Remedies, lands. Though, I want to count damage here. If Tony just activates that Township, it's 9.
That's going to be a little
light. Close. It's light, but it's close.
So, given that's not lethal, you can make a small attack.
Yeah.
You have to cover this Riftbolt, though.
If he could have kept the Duskwatch Recruiter around, it would have been 12.
Sure. That wasn't going to happen, though.
Tracker. Land makes a clue. He'll investigate.
I think the line had to be Scavenging Ooze last turn.
Yeah.
The way it's set up right now, he has to find exactly Spell Queller to deal with that Riftbolt and hope that Rio bricks.
And he cracks a clue, and it's not going to find it. Yeah, that's going to be it for Preeshl this game. But I agree with you. There were enough creatures in these graveyards that Ooze would have been great. Riftbolt upstairs, and he says, yeah, that's good. So game 1 goes to Rio Trevathan on burn. This deck is in his comfort zone.
Yeah, won that one on the draw as well.
On the draw, and against a turn 1 Noble that didn't ever get removed.
No, it just made mana on almost every turn as well.
So Rio Trevathan, 13-year-old, 1 game away from an invitational top 8. We're going to talk about game 2 just after this short break. So we are back here, round number 15 of the Invitational. It is Tony Preeshl and Rio Trevathan, a win in here for top 8. Rio with Burn took game 1, and we move over to the sideboards. On Tony's side, he has 3 copies of Geist to St. Traft, 2 Path to Exile, or make that 3 Path to Exile, 2 Unified Will, a Blessed Alliance, a Burnt and Forge Tender, an Eidolon of Rhetoric, a Elspeth, a Kataki, and a Reflector Mage, and a Spellskite. These creature decks frequently get better against Burn out of the sideboard, and it looks like he has some options too.
Right. He has a small number of cards that are quite good. The Blessed Alliance is excellent. The Burnt and Forge Tender also figures to be pretty excellent. And he has a couple options that are fine. Spellskite usually pretty good in a matchup like this. Kind of into Reflector Mage because it's a 2/3, particularly on the play. That's kind of nice. You can reach for the Path to Exiles as well, just so you don't get run over by creatures.
Yeah. So on the play, I might leave them out, but on the draw, you don't want to get double Goblin Guided.
Right.
Now on Rio Trevathan's side, his sideboard 3 Destructive Revelry, 2 Deflecting Palm, 2 Grim Lavamancer, 2 Molten Rain, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Rest in Peace, and 2 copies of Searing Blood. This is more than I would expect for the matchup.
Yeah, it's a good mix. The Grim Lavamancers are going to be excellent. I like Searing Blood a good amount, especially because it's a Vizier of Remedies combo deck.
So the creatures are small on toughness.
Yeah, good mixed creatures you can hit. Tony's probably going to leave in some of those Dustfrost Recruiters just because they trade. You can get them there. Obviously, you can't hit Spell Queller, but not everything can. I think there's enough upside there. Decent argument for Path to Exile. I don't generally love it unless my opponent's deck is something that plays a very small number of creatures that usually win the game, but it's fine to bring it in here.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. It would really be respect for the combo if he boards it in, because it is a spell that doesn't deal damage, and in this matchup, that's a big liability.
Right. In particular, he doesn't know that Tony's not on Kitchen Finks. That's okay. That's a fine spot for Path to Exile. You think that one's there, the paths get a little more inviting.
All right, so Tony on the play again, turn 1 Noble Hierarch. This time he has to shock for it. Certainly not a free thing against the Burn deck.
Right.
And for Rio Trevathan, he has a 1-drop of his own. It is Monastery Swiftspear.
A fine start.
Yeah, so both players at 17. And you really felt that last game, Tony's deck hurting for not having Kitchen Finks. A lot of times you will see, he has Spell Quellers instead. That's what the splash is for. We saw 2 Spell Quellers in play that game. If they were 2 Kitchen Finks, I think we might have seen a different result.
What we're not seeing here is 2 lands from Tony Preeshl.
Okay, his turn 2 Devoted Druid and nothing else. Now, I see why he keeps. He's got a Vizier of Remedies in his hand. If Rio doesn't remove the Devoted Druid, he might just die. But here's Lightning Bolts, yeah.
Didn't come here to die.
Monastery Swiftspear hits Tony down to 15. It is enticing right out of the Counters Company side saying, hey, I have Devoted Druid, Vizier of Remedies, and Duskwatch Recruiter, or even Collected Company in my opener. I want to keep this.
It's a tough hand to mulligan.
But now he's in trouble because Rio's follow-up is Grim Lavamancer. Even if he remakes a Devoted Druid, now he's going to have trouble sticking anything.
He needs lands, and he needs them fast.
Yeah. Well, he drew something similar. It's Noble Hierarch. But
if Rio just has another Lightning Bolt, something like that, it'd be really easy to clean this up.
Yeah, Bolt 1, Lavamancer the other.
Yep.
And Tony Preeshl finding himself in a difficult situation now.
Also, the way that he's sideboarded has hurt him a little bit, even if he catches back up. He's brought in Geist of St. Traft. I get it. You want to get out in front and steal some games. But if you get into a situation where there's creatures on both sides, Geist is just not very good in this matchup.
I'm with you. I don't like it too much. Now, he did say play a turn 1 Noble Hierarch, and it didn't die. If Tony's turn 2 play was just Geist of St. Traft to go, it would have looked great. And you see here, though, from Rio, he's just makes the most here. Swiftspear, Lightning Bolt, swings, and this is a real show of confidence. Rio could have played Lightning Bolt, Grim Lavamancer activation, and he's just going to let Tony have the mana.
This is also just a spot where you want your burn opponent to make like a land drop every turn of the game.
Yeah,
they don't have any more spells, but Rio's just full up on spells.
So here's Reflector Mage from Tony. He did hit the land. He had to shock for it, though, so he drops to 11. And he'll return Grim Lavamancer to Rio's hand.
That's a good tempo play.
Yeah, with the way the game's going, it's unlikely that we're going to see that card activate again.
Right.
You wait a turn to play it, then another turn to use it. Third land drawn for Trevathan.
Ooh, I think
Inspiring
that's a Searing
Vantage.
Blaze. That's so good here.
Yeah. Plays the land. Oh, and now he might attack with the Swift Spears. That's just rude.
If he has Searing Blaze plus a 1-mana instant, I suppose Lightning Bolt is where it would have to be. If he can force a Reflector Mage into combat, Searing Blaze and Noble Hierarch, go upstairs with a Lightning Bolt, that's a huge exchange for Rio.
And I think that's what he's weighing here. He could, the straightforward play is Searing Blaze the Reflector Mage, deal 3, swing 4. But then you leave Tony with a lot of mana.
Yeah, the Noble Hierarch is the 3rd mana source and the only white mana source, so you do kind of want to go for that.
So Rio's going to swing both before playing any spells. Tony blocks. And now, I think if he's made this play, then Rio's committed to blazing the Noble Hierarch, which he does.
I think that's pretty much where he wanted to point it. Yeah, he doesn't even have the extra burn spell. He mostly just wants to take Tony off of that 3rd mana, that only white mana source.
Suspends Rift Bolt with the last mana. And for someone of Rio's age, I want to just point out how good that play is. So once you decide you're going to Searing Blaze the Noble Hierarch, you could pre-combat just say Blaze the Hierarch, swing both guys, Tony to make the same block. By doing it in combat, it was the same result, but Rio gave Tony the opportunity to make the wrong block.
Right.
And even though it's unlikely to happen, that's just free value, and it's already a veteran move to take that kind of value. And we see Rift Bolt, Lightning Helix. Rio closes it out, 2-0. He's your winner. He goes to 12-3, and it looks